Performers who live in Pulau Penang. And if you call us entertainers, you would not be so wrong. It's part and parcel of our makeup, please do see.
Hello, welcome. My name is Arunan, and we are here today with Mr. J. Menon as a part of the Penang Heritage Arts Festival podcast. Good morning, Mr. J.
Morning.
Okay, can you tell us about Penang Players and your role in it?
Penang Players is an amateur theatre organization founded way back in the 60s by the British expatriates who left us a legacy in amateur theatre and a liking for it. So when they left, locals took over, and we have been active all these 70 plus years. And I am the current vice chair of Penang Players.
I remember that the last two plays done by Penang Players were comedies. This one is not a comedy, but kind of a history. Is this the first time you are directing a historical play?
Okay, I would consider it as the second. The first being A Plague Upon Your House, which talked about the plague times in the time of Shakespeare in his London in 1600. That play has a historical background, but I wouldn't call it intimately historical, unlike the Legend of Rani Dhobi, which is an intimate view of a particular time in Penang's history.
How many plays have you written which have been performed on stage, and what were they about?
Okay, The Plague Upon a House was the second one which I had written, and that was written in the time of the COVID lockdowns, which affected many local artists whose stream of income was made to zero. So I was interested in how to depict this period, which should not be forgotten, but not as a severe commentary, but more on a reflection of how plagues can occur and how people rise or fall to the occasion. But the first play which I wrote was Memes a Love Story, which was actually the seed which started the idea of the Penang Heritage Arts Festival. Because there I collaborated with Penang Jazz Society Jerome Kwa and Studio Pentas Aida Redza, because we wanted to bring a play with music, song and dance, and an original play. So I wrote the script and they helped in choreographing both the music, the dance, as well as the songs. So we had 60 people on stage for that one. So this is my third original play for Penang Players.
What inspired you to write this play?
In doing research for the Indian Heritage Treasure Hunt a few years ago, I went into Rama Temple at the Dhobi Ghat to find out what I could set some questions on. So I entered the temple grounds, and they have a very nice hall, so to speak, where a lot of information regarding the Ghat and the origins of the temple are put on the walls. So one thing that struck me was a page from the Handbook of British India. And there's a paragraph in that which was highlighted about a woman who who had become boss of the laundry for the British sepoys, and how she had acquired a piece of land from the Governor General of that time. So I said, wow, a woman getting a piece of land for a temple is quite unheard of, even in history, because usually you think temples are the prerogative of royals and other elevated people, but this woman went through and got the piece of land. So I said, I have to find out more about this. So that was the initial spark.
So just that info in the handbook of British India was sufficient to start your writing?
Yeah. I like to solve puzzles. I'm a puzzle settler. I set puzzles and all kinds, cryptic and related to students doing STEM subjects in secondary schools. So this was a real good puzzle. I think worthy of some attention. And the hard part was there were not enough records or archives about this person, Rani Dhobi. But I had learned before, when I was looking at the Shakespeare play, which I had written earlier, that there's a technique called emplotment, which is to do with writing about a history where there are no more primary records. Nothing exists on paper, in monuments, but still it can be written if you understand the techniques. So in doing that, I found that yes, I could do it.
So what made you decide that you wanted to insert the fictional characters that you did so in the play? For example, the role that I am playing, Jairam.
Yes. Originally, by looking at the records, there are only 3 people confirmed to have existed in that 1800 Penang period. Governor Leith himself, Counter, who was, I think, also to some extent high up in the hierarchy, and Rani Dhobi. The rest all had to be created. Now, there's a certain discipline in creating fictional characters. You want to keep them to a minimum, and you want them to work well within the ecosystem of that period. So, how do I decide which fictional characters to get in? Yes, I had to know what is going on at that time in other areas parallelly. So while the lady was getting the plot of land, I also had to see what was happening generally in Penang. Of course, there was piracy going on, so that kept the British busy. Then there was the issue of the Kedah and the East India Company tussle over the plot of land on the mainland. And there was Ghat rivalry. So I thought that was sufficient enough to give me a geographical constraint on how I could use fictional characters to bridge all these different areas in a minimalist but yet logical way. So I think I created about 3 or 4 fictional characters which are important to the story.
Okay. Was this written specifically for Penang Heritage Arts Festival? And is this going to be a template for future plays on our island's past?
Actually, I got interested in writing historical plays specifically for Penang and the North when I heard about Taiping's 150th year anniversary, maybe in 24 or 25. So I said, let's see whether I can make it interesting, because that should be something that Taiping should be interested in. So I created a credible narrative which was not only to look at that particular period in which Taiping was founded, with the rush of tin, the gangs, and the mystical elements, because we are seeing the effect of industrial age technology entering pleasant fields. So the old ways of pastoral living are definitely being encroached on with the tin mining techniques that were introduced by the miners. And it was a universal subject. Even now, to this day, there are such struggles going on all over the world. So I thought it was a very good starting point. And Taiping now is a very special town. So, and that interested me. There are a lot more things in Penang, actually very, very interesting stuff, which actually the dramatic narrative can help bring to life. Compared to academic study, which no one will read, which a few people will read. But a play with characters carrying the story, why not? I think it will attract lots of people. So yeah, I wish to continue writing as and when there is a need and there is inspiration.
After writing the play, were you satisfied with it? Did it achieve your objectives as you started out?
Yes. When I wrote the Taiping Rebellions, I knew what I had to do to get that story, shall we say, understandable and exciting for a viewer within a space of the time period of about an hour or so. So the same thing here. Within 1.5 hours, I had to clear the story and tell it in a form that is understandable, but not making it too simple. It has to have mystery. It has to have big issues. It has to have a clash of kinds between West and East, between big enterprise and small business, between spiritual domains, and between ambitions on the river and on the streets. So yeah, I was quite happy that I managed to do it, but ultimate judge is of course the audience and individual audience members. There's no such thing as a collective audience judgment, but we hope individuals who come to see the play are attracted to the concept of historical plays set in recent historical past of Penang.
Okay. What will the public expect from this play, and what would you want them to take away?
Being set within the Penang Heritage Arts Festival, which happens to be on May 1, 2, 3 and May 8, 9, 10 at the Bangunan UAB, we hope they come to see this play specifically to get the idea, an experiential idea of what history is. Ultimately, history is interesting to the public because of individuals who lived it, who struggled with the issues of that time, who created the present. So there should be a sense of curiosity, at the very least, from the public when they come to see the play. So I expect that, and I expect them to be the final judge of whether such a history, as told in dramatic narrative, works on the stage, in their minds, and whether it is fitting concept for future productions involving Penang's undetailed recorded past.
Thank you for your time and answers to our questions, Mr. J. And that concludes our interview with the writer and director of The Legend of Rani Dhobi. Thank you.